I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and in this video we're going to talk all about rock sliders for your two-door 2007 and up JK. Now, you're going to want to install a set of rock sliders if you're somebody who does some wheeling with your Jeep. You get into an area where you might have stumps, boulders, other obstacles that can come up and make contact with the rocker area of your Jeep. That rocker is of course the area directly below your doors, and if it gets contacted, especially contacted hard, it can get pushed up into the door, creating a situation where you can't open and close the door properly, and you just get into a very expensive repair. Also, of course, you're going to get hung up in that area. You're not going to be able to get over obstacles. You're always going to be worried about if that boulder you're about to drive over is going to cause damage or not, so a rock slider is going to alleviate all of that. Now, rock sliders are specifically designed to be very strong and to be used as armor. However, a lot of them are also going to have the built-in convenience of a step. Now, something that is specifically a step and not armor, they're going to sit down a little bit lower, sit away from the Jeep a little bit more, and be a very convenient to use step, but not offer a lot of protection. Because these offer a ton of protection, and the step feature is a little bit more of an afterthought. They're not going to be quite as convenient to use as a step. However, they are still going to help you get in and out of your stock or even lifted height JK. So today we're going to go through my picks for a couple of different styles of rock sliders, and those sliders are going to install on your Jeep slightly differently. Now, we're not going to talk about any of the sliders that require you to drill tons of holes in the side of your Jeep. That's kind of a different category. Today we're talking about bolt-on sliders, but even within that, there are different ways for them to bolt on, which will create a stronger or a weaker connection point. So that's what we're going to go through today. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out other videos like this, as well as product videos on all these and a bunch of additional rock slider options, because again, these are just my picks in these categories. There are a lot of options to choose from. So today we're going to talk about the Smittybilt Rock Crawler Side Armor, which is an option that's going to give you a very useful step and some good protection, although it doesn't attach to the Jeep in a way that offers quite the protection as some of the other options that we're going to talk about. Next, we'll go through the RedRock 4x4 Side Armor. That's going to attach in a couple of additional attachment points, so it's going to be a little bit stronger than that Smittybilt, but it's still going to be a very similar design. Next, we'll go through the Barricade Enhanced Ruby Rails, which is going to attach in a similar fashion to that RedRock 4x4, giving you a nice strong connection point, but is a completely different design, very similar to a factory set of Ruby Rails, but they have an additional bar that makes them a little bit of an easier step. And finally, we'll go through the Barricade Rock Sliders, which is going to be one of the strongest options that you have for a bolt-on rock slider. They're going to attach very securely onto the side of your Jeep and also be a pretty good step. So let's get into the options. So the first rock slider I want to talk about is the Smittybilt Rock Crawler Side Armor, and this is going to be a fairly traditional design. You're going to see this from a couple of the other ones that we're going to talk about today, and there are a bunch of other brands out there making something similar as well, where it has the bar that kind of sticks off a little bit, that gives you a stepping surface. It gives you a lower bar and an upper bar, making sort of that triangular cage look. Now, the Smittybilt does have another piece of flat steel welded up on top here, giving you a little bit of an easier to use stepping surface, so that does have this feature. Now, the reason that we're talking about this one first is that it's going to mount on the body bushing bolts directly to either side of the main body bolts on your Jeep. So this isn't going to attach quite as strongly as something that will bolt directly to those much larger body bolts on the Wrangler. This also isn't going to attach onto the pinch seam at all. So again, you don't have that additional level of protection against any leverage that might occur as you are coming down off of an obstacle onto a rock or a stump or whatever it might be. So this is still going to give you some good protection. It's definitely going to be better than not having anything there. It's going to be something that's pretty strong. Overall, it is going to be very well built. However, just because of the way that it attaches onto your Jeep, it's not going to be quite as strong as some of the other options we'll talk about. The next rocker armor I want to talk about is the RedRock 4x4 Side Armor. You can see here that this is going to be a similar design to the Smittybilt that we just talked about. It's going to have that 3-bar triangular design. It is going to be a pretty good, pretty easy to use step, and it is going to offer you some nice protection. However, this is going to install a little bit differently onto the Jeep. It's still going to be completely bolt-on, but instead of just using the body bushing bolts, this is going to bolt onto the bottom of the tub and also onto the pinch seam. So by having those additional mounting points, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage because you're not going to get as much leverage from this setup. So again, if you're coming down off of a big obstacle onto a rock, a stump, whatever it might be, you're not going to have quite as much torque on that rock slider pushing up because this is going to attach in multiple locations. So a little bit more strength and a little bit more security out of something like this. This option here is the Barricade Enhanced Ruby Rail. So it's going to look very similar to a factory Ruby Rail with this additional bar on the outside that's going to be a bit of a step and also help to deflect and help you to slide over obstacles when you get in those types of situations. Now, this is going to mount very similarly to that RedRock 4x4 side armor that we just talked about. This is going to mount to the bottom of the tub and also onto the pinch seam. So this is going to be something that is equally as strong. In fact, this bar adds a little bit of width here, but for the most part, this stays tucked very close into the body, which means you're limiting the leverage that you could get when you come down on an obstacle, which means this is going to be that much stronger. It's not going to move around. It's really going to do a very nice job of protecting. Now, one thing that I really like about a Ruby Rail, an enhanced Ruby Rail like this one, is the fact that it mounts up nice and high on the body, so it does a very nice job of covering the pinch seam. Some of the other options, whether they attach to the pinch seam or they don't, they sit directly below the pinch seam, so you can still see it. With this option, it's going to attach to the pinch seam and also sit right up above it, so it's going to do a nice job of covering it up, giving the side of the Jeep a very finished look. This is not going to be as big and bulky as some of those other options that we talked about. Gives you a much more sleek look, but also still offers a ton of protection. The last rock slider option I want to talk about today is the Barricade rock slider, and this is going to be a very, very strong option. Now, this is not going to attach in multiple locations like some of the other ones that we talked about. However, it is going to attach on the main body bolts of your JK, not on those body bushing bolts like some of the other options, or to the bottom of the tub like those other options. So this is going to be a very strong point of contact. It also has a very short bar here that extends it out beyond the side of the Jeep, just enough to give you that good protection. So again, we're talking about leverage here. You're not going to have a ton of leverage opportunity when you're running these rock sliders for things to bend, move, and jam up into the rockers. So you're going to have a very, very strong option here. This is going to be a little bit simpler than those first two options that we talked about. Those were more of a three-dimensional triangular cage. This is going to just be a flat surface here with the bars that run on a bit of an angle. Again, that's to help you from getting hung up on something. If you are sliding down a stump, a rock, an obstacle, this is going to just slide right along that, but you are still going to be able to use this as a step, not as useful of a step as those first two options that we talked about. They're going to have a much larger stepping surface, but this is going to make it a little bit easier for you and your passengers to get out of your vehicle. So those are my picks for a couple of different rock sliders that are going to attach in different ways to your two-door JK that you can choose from depending on how you choose to use your Jeep and what functionality you're looking for. We talked about the Smittybilt rock crawler side armor, the RedRock 4x4 side armor, those Barricade Enhanced Ruby Rails, and finally the Barricade rock sliders. But like I said before, these are just my picks. Make sure you comment below, let me know which ones you like, or maybe not even one that I talked about today, what your favorite side armor is, either that you're running on your Jeep or that you want to be installing. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're going to be able to see other great videos like this one, as well as some Jeep builds, product videos, and other great Jeep content.